you know, if you study government, the philosophies that drive the two political parties are very different. And it's on some things we can come together, but on most things we have fundamental disagreement. And if you mention the possibility of raising a tax, no Republican is going to say that they would ever consider that. And all of the Republicans who were here were trying to be the most anti-tax person. And I don't think anybody, Democrat or Republican, likes the concept of raising revenues, but at some time it's needed. Even a Republican did propose one for veterans this last year. But I really think to get this economy rolling again and moving again, that the first thing we have to do is have fiscal responsibility. We can't continue to have a budget deficit of $411 billion a year. And you know, there's a few things, you can applaud later, thank you very much. There's a few things, you know, like these oil companies that have had record high profits get $35 billion a year in subsidies. Judy mentioned Medicare. The insurance companies get $35 billion a year also in profits last year. And then if you look at the earmarkings that have occurred, there's another 17 million. So all of a sudden, all these things add up and we can start to get our budget balanced again. But once we start to make some very serious decisions, some very tough cuts within our budget, then I think there's more confidence in the dollar and this economy will start rolling again. Once America starts having a vision of where we're going in the future with energy, then I think this economy will get going again. And I know a lot of my friends here think that the free market will always solve every problem. Well, if that were the case, why are we here today? And at some point, government has to kind of direct the market because I don't always think we have a level playing field. And I think that's the case today.
So you support bailouts and the kinds of things that we talked about in the stock market?
Well, you know, I don't support Bear Stearns being bailed out or any predatory lenders from being bailed out. But, you know, for some poor person making minimum wage who went out and tried to buy a house and was sold a bill of goods, I think that they are American citizens and we have to look out after their best interest. That's what government is all about, is government for the people. And we can't just allow these people to go live on the streets. I mean, we have to consider their family situation. So I think we need to help those people.
Mr. Bell, you want to weigh in on anything you've heard?
Yes, I do. First of all, this economy is the issue to begin with. And it is absolutely critical that we start getting our house in order. When we look at where we are today, we didn't get here overnight. We got here as a result of a number of years of moving in the wrong direction. And we need to turn it around. It's time for us to start looking at making sure that we're doing what we can to create jobs here at home, for instance, instead of exporting those jobs overseas. That's what's been going on the last decade. We've been watching job after job leave this state. All through North Missouri, you can find little towns that used to have manufacturing jobs that are now gone. Farmers who used to have be able to go into town and make a little extra money, who now don't have that ability. Kids of people who are in this district who have to move to other places because they can't find work here. That is not the kind of a 9th district that any of us want. We want a 9th district that flourishes, that comes back from some of these difficulties. And it's going to take a national effort to try to make that happen. We do have to get our fiscal budget in order, and we have to invest in jobs that are right here at home. We need to do something about bringing these gas prices down. And if that means looking at things that we have here at home that produce energy, then by golly, let's start doing it. I really think that today is one of the most critical times we've had in American history. Maybe it's not as obvious as World War II. Maybe it's not as obvious as something that's dramatic that is occurring. But we have got to put our policy house in order. And it means investing in America first. It means putting this country back on the road where we are more independent, where we're not borrowing money from China and Saudi Arabia to get by, when we have jobs that are created because of American ingenuity and small businesses that have the ability to make it, where we have farmers and small businesses that can find affordable health insurance in this country. If we get back on that road, If we get back on the road that produces a stronger America, all of us will benefit, and we will all have a better tomorrow.
And with that, I want to say one thing. That's an excellent speech. But don't you think that we will never be secure in this country until we have a national policy, a national understanding that we have to make our own products in this country? I understand there's a global economy, but I'll tell you what, I want to buy my tennis shoes, my shirts, my cars, my refrigerators, and all those things that I used to buy that were built in America. I want to buy them made in America once again. And I think no country in the world can be secure if they don't have that policy.
I want to follow up on it, if it's appropriate, because this is exactly the point. When you get to the point where we look at where we were in World War II, and you mentioned it earlier, when we can start looking at moving manufacturing that we have around the country from making things that we use in our houses every day to gearing up for a world war. That is a part of our national security. It's a part of our independence.
And government directed that to happen. The free market just didn't do it by itself.
It all came together.
Gentlemen,
It's part of that.
if I may, you've definitely hijacked my question here. You've done a fine job, but none of the four of you went near the T word.
I'll do that.
What do you mean? I started out with that. I said the Republicans wouldn't even mention it. But, you know, it's something that it has to be considered in certain instances. So,
Tax policy, let's make everybody in the room aware of what your position is on taxes. Ready to get rid of the cuts that have been instituted over the last 5-6 years and raise taxes?
Yes, but first I'd like to say about the deficit, just to respond. I think the deficit right now is a national security issue. We have on the news today, InBev comes in and can buy a national treasure from us. It's because of the value of the dollar. The deficit and inflation is causing the value of the dollar to plummet, and this is not the last of these national treasures that we're going to hear about that are up for sale because they're on fire sale from the value of the dollar. Now about the T-word taxes. The failed Bush policies have completely crunched the middle class. There's been an incredible amount of transfer of wealth to the wealthy. It is time for us to make work pay. And that is Obama's term and his tax cuts, which I think are a good idea to strengthen the middle class. Once we strengthen the middle class, you're going to see people have money in their pockets to spend at home. And that's really, really important to our economy. It's just to have people who can spend some money, who have a little bit of discretionary income. We have rewarded wealth and forgotten how to reward work. We must reward work, and so the middle class tax cuts, the make work pay tax cuts that Obama is proposing are probably a good idea. In that 150 million households would benefit from the middle class tax cuts.
Mr. Bodie?
Just going back what we were talking about earlier, all along our campaign, we've been campaigning on our theme, which is Rebuild America. It's a program to rebuild our infrastructure, not only here in the 9th District, but all across the country, to bring federal dollars back in, rebuild our infrastructure, whether it's road, bridges, water systems, whatever needs to be done in our infrastructure. And in doing that, we'll make our country a better place to live and work, but we'll create these jobs that we